second French Grand Prix of the 2017 FIM X-Trial World Championship is the decider in Nice. The fourth and final round of the campaign with the title and series podium on the line. As the riders arrive in Nice for the final round of the World Championship, they leave behind them three venues in three different countries, the scene for the 2017 title race. The Spanish Grand Prix celebrated the 40th anniversary of the Barcelona X-Trial, with home representatives locking out each of the top 5 positions. Tony Beau kicked off the defence of his 10th world title with a comfortable 16-mark victory in a final characterised by its extreme difficulty. Aside from Beau, each of the contenders failed 4 sections. Only the battle for third position therefore went down to the last section, Gironi Fajardo and Albert Cabastan finishing tied, separated by a speed section tiebreak that went Fajardo's way. It was a bit cruel, but as we always say, that's racing. Obviously, it made a fight for the World Championship more difficult, particularly because, by missing the podium, it left me needing to beat Gironi in the subsequent rounds. So the results certainly put a lot of pressure on. It was a very special race, the 40th anniversary, the first round, the first time a World Championship opened in Barcelona. So we were very pleased with how it went. I had a really good feeling on the bike. It's always a difficult place to ride because there's so much pressure, but starting the season that way was incredible. A brilliant victory, and in such a short championship you're almost obliged to keep winning. So starting with a win was a relief and enabled me to turn my attentions to Vienna. Tony Beau was again the favourite heading to Vienna Neustadt, having never been beaten in an Austrian Grand Prix, and on sections which seemed set to suit his style. The reigning champion took his first advantage as the only rider through section 1 and had victory confirmed with 2 sections to spare before becoming the first to successfully complete section 5 as well. The 50th career success for Beau, this time with a 10-mark margin behind him. The 2 remaining podium positions behind Beau came down to Section 3, the only course successfully completed by any rider other than Beau. Adam Raga notched a single mark, Albert Cabastan notched 2, and Gironi Fajardo failed the section, giving Raga the second place he needed in the context of the championship, and bringing Cabastan back level with Fajardo overall in third. Qualifying was really good. I finished 2 marks from Tony and was riding well as I had in Barcelona. But in the final, the sections were incredibly difficult, such a high level that we almost scored a 5 in all of them. So only one section made the difference in the final result. In that section, I was able to get the right result and secure second position. But it was a risky trial because you could quite easily end up finishing 4th, so I was satisfied with second.
Podías acabar cuarto fácilmente, entonces con el segundo puesto también estuve súper contento.
For a second time I was beaten by just a second because of a mark for time in the crucial section. It was a small margin, but we know that in the indoors things are pretty tight. And the main objective was to battle Gironi, step by step, to either be in front of him or right behind him to be in control in the following rounds. So that was the idea. Do what I needed to do to keep the final podium in reach. A second place would obviously have been even better, but I was happy to return to the podium and tie with Gironi overall. Marseille proved the most accessible trial of the season so far, and with only 5 sections in the final, also produced the tension characteristic of X-Trial competition. The surprises had already begun in qualifying, Tony Beau finishing down in third after a Section 4 failure and spending the rest of the night under pressure through the double-lane races and the final, where he had already built a 6-mark margin before stalling the bike in the final section. The third round was really important because otherwise whoever won here would have been champion. So I was really nervous right from the start. I lost the double lane race and started behind. I didn't have a good qualifying. I tried to get out of a section on the back wheel to win it and lost a load of marks. Then I had to win 3 races, and that gave me a bit of energy and made me focus on the race. In the final, I had a great start and was able to open a gap in section 2, and I was able to maintain that until the last section when I made a mistake because of a loss of concentration. It was a race in which Adam put on a lot of pressure and where opening a margin over him was very difficult, so it was a tight race with a very important win. Adam Raga took second, but had missed out on a golden opportunity to put Tony Beau under pressure in the final round. After winning qualifying, it was only a Section 2 failure in the final that stopped him from taking the first of 2 French Grand Prix. He finished just 1 mark short. Section 5 proved crucial in the battle for third, with Albert Cabestan overhauling Jaime Busto in his final ride to take a spot on the podium and move 1 step closer to an FIM bronze. Meanwhile, with 3 wins out of 3 for Beau, only a disaster could deprive him of an 11th title now, from 15 points in the clear. After winning in Marseille, you would think I'm not under too much pressure, but obviously I still need 5th position. The race looks quite easy, so you can't afford to make mistakes, and everyone will have to be on form to qualify, which is what I need to do. I'll go out with the same aim of riding well and overcoming the nerves that we know will be difficult. Behind Beau's relentless march to the title, Adam Raga will secure second overall with a podium finish in Nice, and Gironi Fajardo will be relying on Albert Cabestan missing out on the final altogether, unless he can take a surprise victory in the final round of the 2017 campaign. Regular ex-Trial of Nations venue Nice is the host for only the 4th time in World Championship competition. The 6,000 capacity Palais Nicaillard welcomes fans for a second week of ex-trial in France, reclaiming its position as the last stop on the calendar for the first time since 2013. Alexandre Ferrer became the 3rd different wildcard in the 2017 series and the 2nd from France, after Loris Goubian's appearance in the Austrian Grand Prix 2 weeks before. Franz Kadlec sat 6 points down on his nearest rival in the championship standings coming into the final round of his rookie ex-trial season, and it was another difficult start for the German in Nice. The 19-year-old was defeated by wildcard Alexandre Ferrer in the opening speed section and, after the pair both notched a Section 1 clean, dropped a 5-mark score in Section 2. Alexandre Ferrer missed out on a place as a full-time rider for the 2017 Ex-Trial World Championship after finishing 6th of the 7 permanent competitors in 2016, but earned some consolation as a wildcard in front of his home crowd in Nice. The former world number 5 took advantage of his speed section win to benefit from direct rival Kadlec's various struggles, moving above the German after the successful completion of Section 2 with just 2 marks accrued. Franz Kadlec enjoyed his best qualifying performance and lowest first lap score of the season in what turned out to be a generally more accessible trial, and one in which he was able to complete 3 sections. Making it over the tower to complete his 2nd of the day, Kadlec dropped a single mark for a misjudged landing onto the sump, moving on to a total of 6 at the halfway point. The German then dropped another single mark tally in what turned out to be one of the better performances through Section 4, leaving himself with a chance of avoiding the basement position he had already occupied in 2 of the 3 2017 rounds.
Un point de pénalité pour l'instant pour Franz Kadlec. La sortie, attention. Franz Kadlec. La sortie, parfait. Un point.
Alexandre Ferrer lost 1 of his 4-mark lead over Kadlec with a 2-mark score in the same section, but that had little impact on his finishing position overall, with the qualifiers to the final each failing just a single section. Despite the lack of huge steps that divided the riders so dramatically in the opening 2 rounds of the campaign, technical difficulty and a requirement for accuracy still saw a significant spread in points in 3 of the sections. Sections 2, 4 and 5 therefore proving decisive. Both Cadlec and FRA failed Section 5, slipping away from the opening step and unable to make a challenging turn onto the narrow surface of the section's second trunk. And with Section 6 proving impossible for every rider who tackled it, Frans Cadlec set the opening total of 17, Alexander FRA remaining 3 marks ahead on 14.
Échec. Allez, on peut l'applaudir à Monsieur Alexandre FRA.
James Dable arrived in Nice only 7th in the series standings, having dropped twice into the bottom 2 and with only 1 top 5 finish in the opening 3 rounds. But the British rider enjoyed his best qualifying lap of the season, taking advantage of his last chance to make the final in 2017. Dable became the first rider to clean Section 2, still remained without a dropped mark at the lap's halfway point. Takehisa Fujinami came into Nice 4 points up on James Dable in the championship after a season's best result of 5th position in Marseille. But his hopes of making a first final appearance of the season took a dent with failure through Section 2. With Alexander FRA and direct rival James Dable having made it through, the Japanese rider left himself with a lot of work to do in the remaining 4 sections.
Allez, on l'applaudit quelque part à Takehisa Fujinami qui doit être déçu et
With 3 successive cleans, James Dable was already guaranteed to finish above Frans Cadlec, and he secured a top 6 finish with a 3-mark score in Section 4. But it was looking increasingly as though the British rider, still yet to fail any of the qualifying sections, could challenge for a place in the deciding lap.
Un 3e pied de posé, non, c'est un échec pour notre ami James Dable. Attention le chrono, top! 53 secondes, ça ne tient peut-être qu'à vous.
Dable, though, had dropped more marks than either Alexander FRA or Frans Cadlec through Section 4, and that presented Takehisa Fujinami with an opportunity to make up ground. The veteran conceded 1 mark at the top of the section and moved on to 6, only 3 marks now behind James Dable on 3. The 2 remaining sections had been failed by both riders in the opening pair, leaving Dable treading new ground in the hope of progressing. The British rider was the first to successfully complete Section 5, dropping just 1 mark with a dab to steady himself on the trunk that had caught out Cadlec and FRA before him. Takehisa Fujinami bettered Dable's Section 5 effort with his 3rd clean of the lap, but with both riders failing Section 6, he was unable to make any further inroads into the Gas rider's advantage. James Dable moved top of the standings on 9, Fujinami 2 marks down on 11.
Allez, tape les mains, Nice, vas-y, fais du bruit!
Having failed to make the final in any of the opening 3 rounds, Dable and Fujinami were both already out of contention for the series podium, but strong qualifying performances put them into the mix and into the battle between Jeroni Fajardo and Albert Cabestan. Cabestan had the upper hand coming into Nice with an 8-point lead over his rival, but he got off to a poor start, failing Section 2, as Takehisa Fujinami had before him. Both riders had the clear target of James Dable's 9-point score to beat to guarantee a place in the final. But with each of the opening 4 riders having failed Section 6, Albert Cabestan's hopes of progressing were already looking precarious. And Jeroni Fajardo moved to take advantage, notching a 5-mark lead over Cabestan in Section 2. Fajardo looking for his 2nd podium finish of the season to have a hope of overhauling Cabestan in the championship overall. Matched James Dable's early run with 3 cleans.
Il va falloir garder de l'énergie pour les X-Trial du championnat du monde ici au Nicaïa. Oh, il est facile ce soir, Jérôme.
Meanwhile, for Albert Cabestan, qualifying was already looking like an exercise in damage limitation after his devastating Section 2 failure. Already unlikely to match Dable or Fajardo to make the final, Cabestan needed to get the better of Fujinami and FRA to have the best possible chance of remaining above Fajardo in the series overall. And as the first rider to clean Section 4, he at least made up some ground on an ever-widening pool of riders, still in with a chance of finishing above him. Gironi Fajardo dropped a single mark in Section 4, but still remained 4 marks up on Cabestan and 8 marks ahead of James Dable's 9-mark total, with 2 sections still to ride. Minimising errors in Section 5 would be crucial for both of the championship podium contenders in their battle for the FIM bronze.
Regardez où les pilotes, vous pouvez applaudir bien sûr, regardez où le pilote a placé la moto. Albert Cabestani qui nous avait fait 0. Gironi Fajardo, attention au chrono. Top chrono.
With Section 6 seemingly impossible, Cabestan needed a clean from Section 5 to finish above Takehisa Fujinami and leave Fajardo needing 2nd on the night to snatch 3rd in the championship. But instead, it was a shock 5-mark score for the reigning world number 3, leaving him behind not only Fujinami, but also Alexandre Ferrer, and already out of the final with 2 riders still to come. An eventual 7th place finish was Albert Cabestan's worst X-Trial result since his debut 2001 season. Rival Gironi Fajardo was safely through, notching a clean through the same section and a lap score of 6. Qualifying for Adam Raga and Tony Bow is generally a mere formality and a question of deciding seeding position for the pre-final stage. But Tony Bow came onto the arena floor needing to better an 11-mark score for 5th position to seal an 11th world title. Adam Raga, meanwhile, could only keep up the pressure by booking his place in the final and hoping for a collapse for his main rival. As unlikely as that may have seemed after Albert Cabestan's disastrous lap, evidence that anything can happen in X-Trial had already been presented. Raga, though, was under no great pressure after missing a golden opportunity to beat Bow in Marseille, and he sailed through to the final with 5 successive cleans.
Adam Raga, 0.
The official moment that Bow confirmed the title was on Section 4, by which points he was still clean, but he remained focused on the task in hand and left celebrations until after the final. Bow's run of appearances in the final stretches back 10 years. He was hardly expected to fail in the deciding round of the 2017 campaign.
Facile. Regardez bien la sortie. Magnifique. 30 secondes.
With 5 successive clean returns for both Raga and Bow, both were already guaranteed to progress to the final above Gironi Fajardo before tackling Section 6. But the massive tower was a question of pride, with none of the riders having made it through successfully before Raga and Bow arrived at its biggest step. Adam Raga's attempt finished in fiasco, leaving Tony Bow an opportunity to top the qualifying standings.
Allez, on recommence comme tout à l'heure.
But even Bow came up short, proving the section truly was impossible. A championship-winning qualifying lap that finished in a fall, but it was already job done for X-Trial's dominant force, an 11th world title for Tony Bow. The most accessible trial of the season provided the biggest surprises as James Dable made his first final since 2014, Albert Cabestan was beaten by Sherco teammate Alexander FRA, a result that left third position in the championship up for grabs in the final. I'm happy with my riding, but it's a shame that I couldn't get through section 2 because I only needed 2 more marks to make the final. But I'm happy that Tony is world champion again, and it's been a good finish to this season. James Dable is the first non-Spaniard to qualify to the final in 2017, and only the 6th different rider to make the final 4. As the last qualifier, he will be first out onto the speed section to decide seeding order for the final. The fastest rider through will have the favourable last starting position. So James Dable of Great Britain first up through the speed section. No great disadvantage to being first out compared to the double lane races, of course. In a double lane race, you'd have to battle your way through 3 if you were the lowest qualifying seed. James Dable first out through the speed section. The other riders will have an idea of what they need to do, but you expect that the timings will be pretty close on what is a fairly short speed section. James Dable first over the line, 21.39 seconds. That's the target time to beat now for Gironi Fajardo, Tony Bow and Adam Raga in that order, tackling the speed section. Vertigo representative Gironi Fajardo, of course, this time last year, was a teammate of James Dable. The Spaniard looking for the podium here tonight to make it onto the World Championship podium as well, chasing that bronze medal against Albert Cabestan. Fajardo over the line then, and it's 20.98 seconds for him. And that is almost half a second quicker than James Dable. So at the moment, it's Gironi Fajardo leading James Dable by around about half a second. Can Tony Bow get the better of both? He's next out. Beaten in a tie-break speed section by Adam Raga at the end of qualifying. That's why Raga will be last out onto this speed section. So let's see if Bow has learned from that and can get the better of Raga this time around. It's 20.4 seconds, so he moves above Fajardo and Dable and sets a time target for Adam Raga, the last rider out, onto the speed section. If he can get the better of Tony Bow here, he will be in the advantageous last starting position for the final. It's been Tony Bow last out on every occasion in 2017 so far, but it's one apiece between Raga and Bow in terms of speed sections here tonight. And Raga working very hard. You can see him moving on the bike to try and get maximum speed as he fires his way to the finish. It's 20.09 for Adam Raga, and it's the advantageous last starting position for the final. So the starting order for section 1 and throughout this final will be James Dable first, Gironi Fajardo second, Tony Bow third, and Adam Raga in 4th. Of course, the reverse order of their finishing positions in that speed section. James Dable then will have to be the first to tackle these sections here tonight. 5 of the 6 sections are those from qualifying, but in a reverse configuration, including this one, section 1. Section 6 is the only course maintained almost unchanged from the opening lap. So James Dable out through section 1. This is probably the easiest of the sections in the final. A pretty short course here with neither major steps nor any uneven surfaces. A series of wire mesh boxes containing rocks, much like Gabions for coastal defences actually. Well, we are in a seaside city here in Nice. James Dable through clean then in section 1. I did suggest that it might be one of the easier sections, and so it proved for James Dable. No great strain there for the multi-time British Trials champion. Gironi Fajardo coming into section 1. Well, James Dable made it look easy, and Gironi Fajardo now has to match him. 3rd place in the last X-Trial to take place here in Nice back in 2013, the Spaniard. 1 top 3 finish in 5 French Grand Prix since then. Fajardo, who of course enjoyed a strong start to the season with a podium finish in Barcelona. So disappointing last time out in Marseille with just 6th position, leaving himself with work to do tonight. Looking for a 26th career podium to snatch his first World Championship medal since his debut 2005 campaign. Fajardo clean through section 1, matching James Dable then. Doesn't look as though this one's going to cause any of the riders too much difficulty. Dable home in 40 seconds, Fajardo home in 42. So time isn't an issue either. And the level of difficulty not particularly high. So it's just about avoiding any unforced errors in this section 1 as Tony Bow leaps up into the air and lands down on the second of these rock gabions. Crowned 11 times world champion tonight at just 30 years of age. Undoubtedly the greatest rider of all time, Tony Bow. Already 10 times French Grand Prix winner after his latest success last week in Marseille. Going for the clean sweep in 2017 with the championship already assured. Great deal less pressure on Tony Bow's shoulders than there has been for much of the season, as he demonstrates by flipping it 180 degrees at the finish line to land backwards at the end of the section. Well, that's a trick that Jaime Busto has perfected in the past and being demonstrated there by Tony Bow. Well, Adam Raga has seen the other three go through section 1 clean, and that puts the pressure onto the former world champion quite firmly. 20 podium finishes in the French Grand Prix for Adam Raga so far, 8 of them for victories, the most recent of which was in Pau in 2015. Adam Raga unable to beat Tony Bow in any of his last 6 attempts since a momentous debut and victory with TRS at Sheffield in 2016, but in a good position to do so here tonight. He'll be tackling on the sections after Tony Bow. So all of the riders clean through section 1, and that was effectively a bit of a warm-up as we now go to 5 deciding sections, with section 1 having been unable to differentiate between any of the riders. Section 2, 2 wooden ramps to make it up and down, the second the longer and steeper of the 2. James Dable up and over the first easily enough. The second one posing the greater difficulty to the riders here, and James Dable first through the section. It's been a great night for James Dable. Single digit total in qualifying. Getting the better of Cabastan and Fujinami to find his way through to the final. James Dable, he's going to cost himself a mark there. He's used the sump to just balance across the top, the crest of that wooden ramp. So that's the first mark dropped of this final for James Dable. It's going to be a single mark score by the looks of things. 1 mark, 49 seconds, so well inside on time, but a frustrating mark drop there for James Dable. Looked like he had that section under control, but he just hesitated at the top and then made the decision to just fulcrum the bike over the top of that crest and down towards the other side. So using the base of the machine has cost him a mark for leaning. That's a mark on observation, nothing on time, of course. Over 10 seconds clear, the riders having to make it through these sections within 60 seconds. But as was the case during qualifying, none of the sections particularly long here this evening. And time unlikely to be an issue. This is where James Dable dropped his mark. He made the decision to just rest the bike on his way down to the other side. Gironi Fajardo will try to move ahead of James Dable by doing all of the work on the back wheel. The risk of doing that, of course, is a fall the other side that ends up costing you a 5. But Gironi Fajardo has done it well and moves above James Dable by a single mark after the completion of section 2. So it's Dable on 1. Fajardo, Bow and Raga still clean. Bow and Raga yet to tackle the sections. It'll be Tony Bow first out of the top 2 in the 2017 World Championship. Those 2 positions already decided. The battle in the context of the series overall is for 3rd, with Gironi Fajardo needing to get the better of James Dable to overhaul Albert Cabastan in the points tallies. As I said, overall in 2017. At the moment, Fajardo leading Dable by a single mark. Tony Bow just pausing at the top of the second ramp. This where James Dable dropped his single mark. Tony Bow, as Gironi Fajardo did before him, is going to make it on the back wheel. And rather than bouncing down onto the sort of runoff below the ramp, Bow just decides to leap straight over it. and making it look even easier than Gironi Fajardo before him. So it's Bo and Fajardo yet to drop a mark. Dable with a single mark to his name. And now Adam Raga taking on Section 2. Well, it's an undeniable advantage to be last out through the sections in the final, seeing all of your rivals take on the sections, but it's also an additional pressure, as Adam Raga is finding out here tonight. When Tony Bo goes clean, Raga needs to do the same. Fajardo and Dable also well and truly in the mix in the final here tonight in Nice. Could even have an upset. Tony Bo was quite clear before we got underway tonight that it would be easy to make a small mistake from which you couldn't recover, because the level of difficulty in these sections is a little bit lower than we've seen in the opening 3 rounds of the campaign, particularly the opening 2 in Barcelona and Vienna Neustadt. Adam Raga through easily enough, hesitating at the top of that ramp for a little bit longer than Tony Bo did, but that doesn't make any difference at all in terms of his section performance and result, which is a clean in Section 2. So James Dable with 1 mark, Fajardo, Bo and Raga all managing to go clean through that Section 2, and now we're on to Section 3. The easier of 2 tower sections in the final. This one laid out as a house, marking the halfway point in the X-Trial. James Dable making his first appearance in the final since 2014, when he finished as world number 4, yet to make it onto a podium in the French Grand Prix. And actually only 2 X-Trial podium finishes to his name, both taken in the 2010 season. James Dable looking good here in Section 3. It's going to be a single mark on observation. So that's 2 drop marks now for James Dable. Only a step part-way through the section that caught out Dable. And Gironi Fajardo managed to avoid dropping a mark in the same place as Dable last time out. We'll be trying to do the same here in Section 3. Really nicely presented sections here tonight. The water certainly adds something to it as well. Vertigo representative Gironi Fajardo then looking to avoid dropping a mark in the same place as James Dable did before him. The revs pick up, but Gironi Fajardo also has to use the sump to get himself up to the top, so it's going to be a mark for leaning. Should still be home dry in terms of time, well inside on time as James Dable was before him. And through he comes then to complete Section 3 with the same total as James Dable. First dropped mark of the lap for Gironi Fajardo. He won't be happy about that. He was making frustrated gasps as he got to the top of the section. Dable on 2, Fajardo still ahead of the Brit by a single mark, but now dropping back from leaders Raga and Bo, unless they make the same mistake here in Section 3. So it's Tony Bo to see if he can become the first rider clean through Section 3 and put the pressure back on Adam Raga. Oh, too easy for Tony Bo. Up on the back wheel. The other 2 riders before him, Dable and Fajardo, both needed to use the base of the machine, costing themselves a mark for leaning to haul themselves up. But no such difficulty for Tony Bo, clean through Section 3 and ahead of Fajardo for the first time. Dable 2, Fajardo 1, Bo clean. Can Raga match the 2017 world champion? Adam Raga, the winner in qualifying earlier tonight, thanks to a tie-break victory. Second time he's moved through as top seed, but the first time he has held the advantageous last starting position for the final, as I said earlier on, in 2017. And exactly as Tony Bo managed before him, all on the back wheel and avoiding snagging the base of the machine, remaining clean through Section 3. So far so good for Adam Raga. Each time Tony Bo comes out and sets a clean, Raga does the same, and at the halfway mark it's 2 marks for James Dable, a single drop mark for Gironi Fajardo, and Tony Bo and Adam Raga, yet to be separated, are clean. Well, the second half of the lap has a higher difficulty level than the first, and the first major step is presented to the riders here in Section 4. series of 6 rocks to cross in total, but this will be the most difficult. Minder at the top of the step, waiting to see if James Dable can make it. 2 marks from 3 sections so far. Minder asking for the applause and encouragement of the crowd, giving extra energy to the riders. James Dable crashes down to a 5. Oh, disappointment for the British rider. His first fiasco of the final. And I did suggest that the second half of this lap would be far more difficult than the first. And that's the way it's proved for James Dable. So whatever happens in this section 4 for Gironi Fajardo, he will remain above James Dable. But can he widen the gap between the 2 riders who at the moment are battling for 3rd and 4th positions? Already 1 mark drop for Gironi Fajardo, just slipping back onto the sump as he made his first landing. But this is the moment. No luck either for Gironi Fajardo. A 5-mark score for him. Not sure exactly what Fajardo is frustrated about, but he certainly won't have been pleased to end up back just a mark ahead of James Dable. He could do with a little bit more clearance than that. The pressure starting to mount for Gironi Fajardo, who knows what he needs to do in the context of the championship. These 2 are just out for pride, Tony Bowe and Adam Raga. Bowe attempting to become the first rider through section 4 here tonight, after Dable and Fajardo failed. Bowe is up, and without even conceding a mark, Tony Bowe remains clean on the final lap. Just looking to make it through the section without conceding anything on time. But it's looking good for Tony Bowe. 4 sections successfully completed and clean in all of them. Tony Bowe 6 marks up now on the battle for 3rd position between Fajardo and Dable. So as I said, each time that Tony Bowe goes clean, it puts the pressure back on Adam Raga to do the same. At the moment, Adam Raga responding well. But can he get to the top of this section 4 without dropping a mark? Both Dable and Fajardo failed altogether. Tony Bowe then going clean. Raga needs to do the same to match him and to avoid slipping in arrears of the newly crowned 11 times world champion. Up and over for Adam Raga. It's good, it's very good. And Raga set for a clean. Keeping an eye on the time as well, but it's faster, if anything, than Tony Bowe so far. Little bit more hesitation, though, in the closing stages. Still got over 10 seconds. 50 seconds to complete the section. Clean in section 4 to match Tony Bowe. Well, it's certainly going to be tense in the closing stages here tonight. 2 sections remaining. All 4 riders separated by just 7 marks. James Dable on to section 5. A second failure here would consign him to the fight for 3rd position, which admittedly is looking his most likely battle tonight anyway against Gironi Fajardo, separated by just a single mark. James Dable contemplating this major step and falling back from it, caught by the minder. It's a 5-mark score in section 5. So 2 consecutive failures for James Dable, and things are starting to unravel for the Brits. Certainly hesitated for a long time. Made the front wheel up and over the step, but couldn't make it any further than that. So Gironi Fajardo with another opportunity to open further ground over James Dable. So far, the only thing to separate them has been a single dab for James Dable in section 2. Gironi Fajardo 6 marks clear, but needing to convert that by making it over this difficult trunk. It steps onto curved surfaces that pose the riders with the biggest challenge, sliding off the side of them, as we saw for Albert Cabestan in qualifying. Gironi Fajardo makes it up, but he slides off the side of the section as well. And there's a deep inhale of breath in the Palais Nikaya. That didn't go to plan for either Dable or Fajardo. And it'll be down to the final section now to decide 3rd position in the World Championship. Fajardo making it up, trying to put his foot down to haul himself onto the top of the trunk, but he couldn't do so, sliding off the right-hand side of the section and down to the floor for a 5-mark score. Tony Bow and Adam Raga now both guaranteed their places in the top two after failures for James Dable and Gironi Fajardo. But there's been nothing to split the two of them so far, and there are only two decisive sections remaining. Can Tony Bow become the first rider to get through Section 5, as he was the first rider to get through Section 4? The answer is yes. More perfection from Tony Bow. Clean so far. Past the trunk that caught out both Dable and Fajardo, and past the finish backwards. It's Tony Bow with yet another clean, who remains clean on this final lap. More exhibition stuff from Tony Bow, who's making it look very easy in the final. He hasn't had things all his own way so far tonight. He's been matched quite closely by Adam Raga and beaten 2-1 in the speed section as well. Adam Raga needing to remain clean here in Section 5 to match Tony Bow. This is where Fajardo and Dable both failed. A major step that Bow managed all on the back wheel. The pressure is on Adam Raga. He can't respond to it. He's dropped a mark there for leaning, just clacking onto the sump at the top of the trunk. But it's still only one mark, and he will still remain in contention into the final section. Up and over to complete the section in 42 seconds, just a single drop mark, his first drop mark of the evening. But crucially, Tony Bow remains clean, and now there is a single mark between the top two and a single mark between the bottom two. The same section that caught out all 8 of the riders in qualifying with just a slight modification. It's the signature section. Here in Nice, it's the Tower. Another fiasco here for James Dable would consign him to 4th position and would give Gironi Fajardo 3rd in the world without even needing to do anything here in Section 6. That's certainly what Fajardo will be hoping for. Won't want to have to go into the final section with the pressure on his shoulders. James Dable, still 1 mark behind Gironi Fajardo. He's made it up. He's had to use a mark for leaning to haul himself to the top. But this certainly will put the pressure back on Gironi Fajardo. It's going to be very clear what he's going to need to do if James Dable can get through this section. Gironi Fajardo will also need to do so. So he came into the section 1 mark behind Fajardo, successfully completing Section 6. He's now just 2 marks in arrears. And Gironi Fajardo can take 3rd in Nice and in the championship here with a maximum of 1 dropped mark. 2 drop marks, of course, would leave him in a tense tie-break with James Dable, and any more than that, it would be Albert Cabestan who would take 3rd in the 2017 title race. This is the moment. The pressure is on for Gironi Fajardo. 2 marks up on James Dable as it stands. Dable dropped 1 mark here to make it to the top of the section. Gironi Fajardo is up. Oh, it's 2 marks dropped for Gironi Fajardo. He hauls himself forward but then slips back. Another drop mark for Fajardo here would concede 3rd position in the championship to Albert Cabestan. He has to get through the rest of the section without error. He does so. He won't be happy about that, but there's no doubt about it. He hauled himself off the sump and then slipped back down onto it for a 2nd dropped mark, and finishes the lap on 13, the same total as James Dable, and will now have a tie-break situation between the two of them for 3rd. And that 3rd position tonight will mean a lot more to Gironi Fajardo than it does to James Dable in terms of 3rd position in the championship. Back to the separate battle for the lead in tonight's event. Tony Bow 1 mark up on Adam Raga after Section 5. A clean here for Bow would give him the win in Nice and complete his unbeaten 2017 records. So far, so good. He manages to make the step without dropping a mark, as Fajardo and Dable both did before him. And Tony Bow to make it win number 4 in 2017, and finally can get the party started. Tony Bow wins in Nice. Well, Tony Bow was the winner by a single mark last weekend. Leads by a single mark here tonight as well. This only for pride, though, for Adam Raga, just to see if he can become the 4th rider successfully through this Section 6. Fajardo dropping the most marks of any rider through this section so far with 2. And we'll turn our attentions back to that battle for third position after this final ride through section 6 for Adam Raga. Well, there was no pressure on Raga anyway, but he hasn't made it up section 6, had to be caught by the minder. Well, it's not a great end to the season for Adam Raga. He's failed to beat Tony Bowe in any of the rounds in 2017. Bowe beaten in at least one event in the last 2 seasons. And now we go to the tie-break for third position. And this will also decide third in the World Championship, as we've said at length tonight. Whichever of these two is faster through the tie-break will take third on the podium here this evening. It's a speed section. Both Fajardo and James Dable have tackled this on two occasions already. Dable first through. This is going to mean so much more to Fajardo, as I already said. If he can beat James Dable on a timed section here, he will take third in the World Championship. And it'll be the first time he's done so in over a decade if he can manage it. James Dable over the line, 20.61 seconds. And that is now the target to beat. Well, James Dable significantly faster than he went in the pre-final speed section. Jeroni Fajardo managed a 20.9. If he can't improve on his previous best through this speed section, then James Dable will beat him. But Fajardo making a very fast start, with the energy that you would expect from a rider who needs this tie-break victory to take third in the world. Fajardo seems faster than Dable so far. Comes to the finish line. It's 19.39 seconds. Jeroni Fajardo takes third in Nice and third in the world. And the celebrations match his delight as he comes over the line to win it in the tensest of circumstances. Little more than a second decides the final step on the World Championship podium, with Jeroni Fajardo snatching third place from James Dable in Nice. It was really tough. Just like in Barcelona, everything decided in the final moments with a tie-break. And on both occasions, the podium went down to just a second. After a really bad race in Marseille, things went a lot better here, particularly on the first lap where I rode very well. Then in the final, the level of difficulty was a lot higher and it got harder for me. But I'm very happy with my riding.
La segunda, el nivel era bastante más alto y algunas de las zonas me han costado bastante, pero bueno, muy satisfecho de mi pilotaje.
I'm very happy with today's race. I've ridden very well, winning qualifying as I did in Marseille and fighting to the end of the final. The team has done great work on the bike, and I would like to congratulate everyone involved.
Ha hecho un gran trabajo con la moto y con todos, y bueno, felicitar a todo el mundo, pero estamos muy contentos.
I'm very happy to win the championship. Such a short championship with a lot of pressure. Winning the first 3 rounds meant we only had to finish in the top 5 today, but it was a very easy qualifying where it was possible to make mistakes. You have to get through these types of moments, concentrating and battling hard. I had a good first lap, aside from the last section that was very difficult, and in the final I was able to ride without any stress. Adam fought well, but I was able to finish the lap on 0, and I'm very happy to have won all 4 races after 2 years in which I haven't managed it. It's very difficult to stay at this level, but we'll see how long I can do it. A 52nd career victory for Tony Bowe rounds out an unbeaten season for the now 11 times world champion. And the top 3 in Nice finish in an updated championship order, with Albert Cabastan slipping to 4th and Jeroni Fajardo promoted to his first top 3 finish since 2005. With no signs of Bowe slipping from his perch, the record books must continually be amended for the greatest rider of all time.